Before we begin, though, I wanted to share that we do recognize that this can be a very controversial topic. Our intent is not to offend people, but to discuss the topic from a biblical perspective and to share our personal convictions as to whether the holiday Christmas is a biblical Christian holiday. You can agree or disagree, just like we can with you as well. That's okay. We are not saying or discussing whether people who celebrate Christmas are Christian or not. We are just talking about the holiday itself. And as I say with any topic, we should not fear discussion with opposing views. We will either learn something that we didn't know before, or we will become more convicted in what we already believe. And both of those are good things. I also want to give a disclaimer that we are not Jehovah's Witnesses. We do not believe it is wrong to celebrate birthdays or anniversaries and the like. And when we talk about pagan things, we are not talking about days of the week, wedding rings, or other practices and rituals like that. We're talking about a holiday, and is it Christian or not?
Right. So this is something else he said. There has never been any Christmas custom demonstrated to derive from pagan ones. Well, again, that is just not right. In the debate, I provided this interesting quote from Tertullian. The Holy Spirit upbraids, in other words, rebukes or reprimands the Jews with their holy days, your Sabbaths, new moon ceremonies, says he, that is God, my soul hates. By us, meaning Christians of the time, to whom Sabbaths are strange, etc., the Saturnalia, New Year's, midwinter's festivals, Matronalia, so these are all just Greco-Roman or Roman festivals, are frequented. Presents come and go, so that there's gift giving. New Year's gifts, games join their noise, banquets join their din. I believe that word means something like boisterous, loud. The point here I was trying to make in the debate is that we have at least one secure, very, very early 2nd century AD, so-called church father Tertullian, sounding like he's actually admonishing, rebuking Christians of the time for going to festivals history shows were appropriated or amalgamated into what we today would call Christmas. So this is from history.com, and this is what I provided in the debate. History of Christmas, Saturnalia, which is one of those ancient Roman holidays. Food and drink were plentiful, and the normal Roman social order was turned upside down. Business and schools were closed so that everyone could participate in the holidays' festivities. Juvenalia, a feast honoring the children of Rome. In addition, members of the upper classes often celebrated the birthday of Mithra, the god of the unconquerable sun. Guess when? On December 25th. He criticized me in the debate for using history.com. He said, do you know what else history.com teaches or the shows they make, on the History Channel, shows about UFOs and about flat earth and about this and that. So why are you using this source? A broken clock can't be right twice a day. I can agree on some things that they do, and I think they get this right. And how do we know? Because you fact check it and you re-fact check it if you will. And what's interesting about this criticism of his is that in his debate, I asked him, can you name me a reliable source for December 25th? He gave me this name, Dr. Taylor Marshall. Again, Google this name, Google Christmas, and you'll probably find this article. Yes, Christ was really born on December 25th. And here's a defense of the traditional date for Christmas. Again, this is very rare for anyone to try and argue or write about. Now, this gentleman, his PhD is in philosophy, not in theology as such. It's just an interesting background to where he's coming from. I think he was a Protestant who turned Catholic. My opponent was being critical of me for using history.com. He's using this Catholic source. Now, let me tell you something about this interesting article, and I hope you can go and read it. If you read the article, you'll see this. In a footnote, says this theory only works if Zacharias and Elizabeth conceived John the Baptist after Zechariah's second course. So this Catholic scholar is using this same argument of establishing when John the Baptist was conceived and eventually was born to try and figure out when Jesus himself was born. His whole theory is established on just picking one of those two time frames. If St. Luke refers to the first course, if This then would place the birth of John the Baptist in late fall, the birth of Christ in late spring. However, I think tradition and the proto-evangelium substantiate that the Baptist was conceived in late September. I want you to notice in that footnote a couple of words, the word theory and the word tradition. By proto-evangelium, if you read this article, he's using as his source, one of the sources, to make this time frame argument from Zechariah's priestly work, let's call it, and when John the Baptist was conceived and then eventually born. He's using a work called the Proto-Evangelion of James, which is also known as the Gospel of James, and it's a 2nd century Gnostic gospel. And by the way, that Gospel of James, also called the Apocryphon of James, is one of many so-called Gnostic gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas. Many of you have probably heard. These are just later inventions to the additions to the life of Jesus the Messiah. But these are gospels like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of James, that guess who uses? The Quran. And for example, the Quran has a famous story, if you remember, Tracy, of Jesus as a child. I believe the story is about how one day he makes clay pigeons or something, and they come to life. In the Quran, it also details a childhood story of Jesus killing another kid, I believe, another child. So those stories are, guess from where? The Gospel of Thomas. So the Gospel of James is the whole basis of his December 25th dating. So there is no evidence that in any of the books or letters of the New Testament, anyone recorded the date of the birth of Jesus. And as a result, there's no celebration. And by that, I mean, for example, there is observance of when he was resurrected, for example. And we understand that to be the first day of the week. So at least we got some mention. Now, we don't have the date, of course, of his actual death and resurrection, but I'm talking about something like that. So there should be something like, and remember my birth.
Well, Carlos, when Jesus at the Last Supper said, that's really the only thing that we're told as New Testament Christians, under the New Covenant, is to observe or celebrate, you could say. What you're observing was what we call communion now. And there is nothing else that he told us, or the disciples or apostles told us, that we are supposed to celebrate as an official holiday or event to remember or anything like that. And so again, I think as we live, we need to be living Christ-like lives and doing that every day and remembering what that means every day.
That's why even today, modern Christian denominations celebrate and observe